Everybody's business is going to look different. People get trapped in trying to copy others in their space or not really understanding the of these funnels and how it applies to their specific business. Welcome to the Locker Room Talk podcast. My name is Riley Beatty, a small business owner and host of this podcast. I am joined by my co-host and your corporate executive insider, Stacey Miller. Together, we bring you the business resources and knowledge that have traditionally been held secret in the locker room of the good old boys club. Every single week, we invite you to break down the locker room door with us to chat about the development, marketing, sales, and operational knowledge you need to grow and scale your small business. Stacey, tell us what is on the game plan for today.
Today, we're talking about the concept of the marketing funnel. The marketing funnel is kind of a next step from your development of your business and your product to how you push that out into the world. So we're going to be talking about the marketing funnel. We're going to break it down into 3 phases of what that funnel looks like.
Before we jump into marketing funnel and just talking more about marketing in general, we're going to start off with our small talk and our question of the day. My best ideas often come to me when I'm running or going for a walk. So I'm super curious for you, Stacey, does this happen to you? Is there a time that you feel like ideas come to you?
That's such a good question. I love this. I used to run more. You know that I ruptured my Achilles many years ago. I run a little bit less now, but I still do run for fun. But that was a really big space for me previously. I do a lot of long walks and hikes. I also go backpacking. Those are spaces that my ideas come to me. And then I commute a lot. I live in the Bay Area. I have my whole life basically. So if you live here, you know you're just signing up to commute a lot for work, to see friends, whatever. I have a lot of car thoughts. In the car, I'll voice record ideas if I really can't let it go, something that I think is really big. But yeah, the car is another space for me.
I forgot about that California lifestyle.
I know. Commute life is real out here.
I don't miss that. Just living in LA, I don't miss it.
Yeah, maybe someday I won't commute. There have been brief moments in my career where I didn't commute and I was like, my life, I have so much free time.
I feel like you start to get really productive in the car though.
You do. It's true. Which is good and bad. Maybe you shouldn't have to be so productive in the car, but yeah. Okay, what about you? Where do you come up with your best ideas?
Definitely when I'm running, when I'm doing my slower miles or my longer runs, things start to just come to me. I always joke with you and then also my steady state team, when I've gone on a run because I'm going to have come up with 3 new business ideas and I'm sending you 3 voice notes when I get done with my run because I'm, oh my gosh, I've been alone with my thoughts and I have a business development idea for you right now.
That's so real. I also love when you come back with all of those ideas from your runs. Okay, also for context, what are your runs like these days? Because I know that you were training for marathons. Where are you at?
Yeah, so right now I'm really focused on building a foundational base for the Richmond Marathon. My goal is to try to qualify for Boston.
I love following this journey.
Oh, thanks. Something that I've been focusing on with my coach is getting up to running 5 days a week and then consistently heavy lifting during that time. So once I move into 16 or a 20-week marathon block, I will have already established a good base mileage so then I can start working on speed and different things like that.
God, I want to spend an entire episode talking about that, but I know that's not what we're here for today. Okay, with that, we should jump in and come back around to the marketing funnel. Are you ready?
Let's do it. In our last episode, we talked a lot about product market fit and introduced the topic of a marketing funnel. And I'm really excited to continue that conversation today.
Me too. I think we're scratching the surface of these topics and there's so much more to talk about and understand about them and make these more relatable for everyone listening.
Yeah, we're going to expand a lot on product market fit and really break down the marketing funnel that Stacey introduced to us. Before we jump in, I would love to do a couple definitions so that you are on the same page as us. So Stacey, can you define product market fit?
Yes. In the last couple episodes, we've talked about product market fit and I've been breaking it down word by word. And I want to do that again, but a little bit differently this time. When I think about market, and I've talked about market in the last few episodes, I usually talk about it as the space of who you're selling to, where you're selling to, etc. But when I first started working in corporate America and started working with these concepts, the image that always came to my mind was I read a lot of books growing up. I was a lit major. I think of those old books about old ways of living where somebody's taking their little cart, their horse-drawn cart to the market to sell their wares, like pottery or corn. I don't know. That's the marketplace. That is the market that people go to. And I think when you hear product market fit, it can sound scary or weird or just like a not natural phrase, but we're just trying to say, what is your market that you're taking your wares to? Where are you bringing these things? And a lot of our market spaces in today's world are actually more virtual. They're over social media or over different buying platforms, e-commerce platforms, but there's still a market. So I think of it in the same way still. And that image always comes to my head. I don't know about you, Riley, if a different image comes for you around a market.
Maybe because I first jumped into really selling product in the virtual market space, I've never really thought about it the way that you just explained, but it just made it so much more simple than what I have been saying in my head. And again, product market fit is not a new concept to me. And this is something that you and I have talked about for the last couple of years, but it just made it seem so much more simple when you said it like that, because I feel a big struggle that entrepreneurs have is scope creep and this concept of trying to sell, and it's so overwhelming and there's so much stuff going on and so many people. But when you think about, you have this little market and that's who you're selling to.
Yeah, I think this goes back to, in a previous episode, we talked about the pie of your market. If you think of your market as this finite space that you're selling into, you just need to define what that space looks like. So again, that's your market. I know we're just on definitions, so I'll keep going. When we talk about product, in today's world, product can often refer to things you go to a physical place to buy, but it can also refer to services and expertise. All of that, when you think about product market fit, is under that umbrella word of product. And so you're really just trying to define, what are you actually selling? Is it a physical good? Is it a service? Is it your expertise? Is it something else? There are so many products out in the market that have made this also feel more complicated, but you want to make your product feel really simple and understandable to your audience. And so just like trying to simplify what your market looks like and feels like, you want to simplify what your product looks like and feels like. So that's your market, your product. You add those together, and that's how you get to that equation of the fit. So you know what your product is. If you've found the right market for it, they fit together, and that's when you start to see revenue growth.
I love this. So to put it in layman's terms, for all of us small business owners who are just hearing this for the first time, the market is a marketplace where you would bring your goods. If I'm a baker and I want to sell something at the market, I'm going to bring my bread to the market. And if I go to the market and the market is a completely gluten-free based market, my bread needs to be gluten-free to fit correctly and sell in the market. Am I understanding that correctly?
That's exactly right. And if you went to a completely gluten-free market and you were trying to sell gluten-rich bread, you wouldn't have a good product market fit. And it's not like you're failing. It's just that you haven't found the market that sells gluten-rich bread. So you need to go find that marketplace. You need to define those spaces and your product.
Why are we making it so complicated?
It doesn't need to be this complicated. We talked about product market fit a lot in the last few episodes, and we also just started to scratch the surface of the marketing funnel. Do you think we should switch gears and talk about that as well?
Yes, because I do think they go hand in hand.
I do too. So I want to define these, but I think, again, it helps to bring it to life with more examples. And so I'll kick it back to you in a second, Riley, to give more examples of this. Conceptually, there's this thing called the marketing funnel. And in corporate America, we literally put it on slide deck as an upside down triangle that looks like a funnel. The top third of it is called top of funnel. And we think about that top of funnel as basic brand awareness. In small businesses, a lot of small businesses today are on social media. That might be things like your likes or engagement statistics. So just like, who's even looking at your thing that you're putting out there? Then the next third and the upside down triangle, that funnel, is the middle of the funnel. And that is where we try to see how we can engage with a more targeted group. In corporate world, that's things like small events where you're engaging with maybe 20 people at a time, or a webinar where you're engaging with 50 to 100 people logging into that webinar. Those are big numbers for maybe a small business. Those are small numbers for a corporation, but that's our middle of funnel. So the top of funnel is like big reach. The middle of funnel is a little more targeted. And then your bottom of the funnel, that bottom third, is even more targeted. These are people who are really engaged with your marketing, who you've probably nurtured. We should talk about nurture in another episode, or we can talk about it a little bit here. But those are folks that have come back time and time again, continue to engage, maybe even fill out like an application or have visited your website or have different imprints across all of your different platforms and ways of marketing, that's your bottom of funnel. Those people are really well primed to purchase. And now your job is to convert them to a paying customer. So again, that's the overall marketing funnel. There's 3 sections, the top, the middle, and the bottom. As you go down, it gets more targeted. But Riley, help us break this down and make it more relatable.
Here I go. I'm going to see if I understand this correctly because, selfishly, I love doing these podcasts with you because I get to learn as well. So, okay, I'm walking through it right now and I have my top of funnel. And if I'm a small business owner, I'm thinking that's probably my social reach, right? That's my Instagram reach, my TikTok, my YouTube. Understanding correctly?
Yep.
Okay, so then I move to middle of my funnel, which is something like a lead nurture, lead magnet type of offering, a newsletter. I feel like that's kind of the thing. Or you're a strength and conditioning coach, you're doing some sort of free clinic, you do a 15-minute type event, but again, more of a targeted reach, but not really converting a client yet.
I think that's exactly right. And even to give an example outside of fitness, if you're a real estate agent, this is like an open house where you're having people come to an open house and you market it to your group or, basically getting a targeted group together. But to your point, it's some sort of free offering that's somewhat targeted.
I love the real estate example. With top of funnel, before I move any further down, is there any other top of funnel options besides social media?
You mean with real estate specifically?
No, just in general.
Yeah, I think this is something like your website. Like a website is one of the biggest lead generation tools. Any small business that comes along and you're trying to market a service, especially if it's your expertise or a physical good or a different product, somebody's probably going to find you on social. So yes, you need social presence, but they're also probably going to look up your website. And if you don't have a website or your website looks like a bot or like something weird made it, you need to have a legitimate looking website to feel like a legitimate business. I remember early in my career, one time I was job searching and I found this really cool nonprofit on a job posting site. I went to their website and it was like one page that was like really poorly designed. I didn't apply to the job. So your website is a big top of funnel resource.
And we are going to talk a lot more about websites on here. I do think a big mistake a lot of business owners make is they go to a website first before figuring out their product market fit. So please, please, please make sure that you're figuring that out and listening to those episodes and diving into product market fit before you look at a website. I'm not saying it's not important, but I have been there and you do not want to have to redo your website 6 times in 3 years. Please look at some of the developmental work and some of the foundational work and work on that product market fit before going website wise. Super great ad on the website. Top of funnel, right? We got social media marketing. We have website. We have maybe flyers, if you're thinking old school kind of paper things, bulletin boards. I mean, people still do that type of stuff. That's your top of your funnel. And we have middle of the funnel, newsletter, Substack, those type of items. And then bottom of the funnel. Give me some examples of that because I feel like that's where some people struggle.
Bottom of funnel is pretty specific to every individual business. And so it really kind of depends on your business, which makes it a little bit harder to define. I consulted for a yoga studio. I was helping them get off the ground. One of the easiest bottom of funnel things for a studio like that was putting together an intro month offer. That is technically a paid offer, but it's a single point in time transaction that's usually less expensive than their overall offering, and it gets somebody to come and engage in a specific way. I would consider that a bottom of funnel activity versus a long-term client or long-term revenue generation component. It does generate revenue, but it's smaller. It's bottom of funnel. In a different business type, taking your business, for example, Riley, your application process, that's your bottom of funnel. Somebody's applying to engage with you. That means that they have a real intent to purchase. So really, when you think of bottom of funnel, you're thinking about what is the way that you have your client, your end user, your customer demonstrate that they have a high likelihood to purchase your product.
I like that you got into how it looks different for everybody because one of the traps that a lot of small business owners fall into is the idea that there's a certain way to do something. There's a specific way to do something. And yes, we have frameworks and we have a playbook, but everybody's business is going to look different. And I do feel oftentimes people get trapped in trying to copy others in their space or not really understanding the parts of these funnels and how it applies to their specific business.
You've heard me say so many times, I don't like to rain on other people's parades, but this is one line that I draw. I do not appreciate when consultants and other business coaches say, this is what worked for me, so here's a worksheet to do exactly the same thing for you. Like, what we want to bring into this space is more recommendations and ways to think about this, because like you said, Riley, everybody needs to find this path that fits their own business model. What works for a yoga studio might not work for a gym, that might not work for real estate, that might not work for a nutrition program. It's all going to look different, but the concepts remain the same.
So annoyed at this because I just feel like it's setting people up for failure. And part of the reason that, I reached out to you initially is because I felt the same way. And I thought, why would I go find somebody who's been a dietitian and has built their business a certain way when I know that I'm different than them? I don't have the business skills and I don't have, certain knowledge because I've never been in a corporate environment, but I can go find somebody and have them on my team that's a specialist in that space. So instead of trying to almost get a secondhand experience for somebody else, why not go find experts and connect with experts that can help move my business forward?
Totally. And that's where finding a community of people to interact with is so important. I mean, obviously you can hire consultants. We would love to work with you, but it's also nice to just find peers that you can compare stories and both successes and failures. I've worked with a lot of sales teams over the years specifically, and we'll do win reports where we talk about winning a specific customer. We'll also do loss reports where we'll talk about and deep dive into why we lost a customer. And we'll share those out amongst the entire sales team because you learn just as much from a loss as you do from a win. And sharing that with your peers and your community is one of the best ways to navigate that as a small business when you often might feel alone.
We do this too, and I didn't even realize it was a thing because we will actually go over every single application that we get within our period recovery program. And then as part of our application process, we're recommending people go into different avenues and different programs, but we will as a group talk about all of our discovery calls, like what went well and what didn't go well, because both of those pieces of information are equally as important.
Oh my gosh, I love this. I didn't realize that you go that deep. And I'm like, yes, see, this is such a great example though. You have to trust yourself in your small business growth. You'll naturally find these practices as you grow and as you gain success in your business. And there just happens to be definitions around them that we want to share with you in case you haven't come across this type of practice yet. Or maybe you have, but you're trying to figure out how to make it better.
This is why these conversations are so important, because I might be doing something in my business and there actually might be business reasoning behind it. And then you come in and help support and tell me, okay, this might not be the way to go. This is the way to go. And then we figure out how to make both of those things better. We covered so much information today and we redefined the marketing funnel and then also continue the conversation on product market fit. In our next episode, we're going to go in an in-depth example of how a market funnel will work effectively and one that has broken down. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Riley's Recap. We're officially naming the segment at the end of each podcast. If you haven't listened to the Locker Room Talk before, you're going to see me at the end of every single one of our educational episodes to give you a little recap and maybe a TLDL, so too long didn't listen, recap of the episode. As a fellow small business owner, I understand how overwhelming and frustrating building a small business can be. And sometimes we don't know what we don't know. So as I'm going through and editing every single episode, I'm going to be jumping on with you at the end to make sure that you're grabbing some of those main points that we talked about in today's episode. So in this episode, we very clearly started to break out the marketing funnel. I understand that there's so many things going on in your small business, and you might not feel like you need to really understand the different sections of a marketing funnel or why it's even necessary. But let me tell you, this is one of the most valuable things that you can be doing in your business. So many small business owners make the mistake of throwing every single thing away when they're not getting clients. And oftentimes we need to take a step back and look at that marketing funnel. There's often one tiny thing that might be mismatched, and therefore it really is disrupting the flow of potential buyers to your product. On our next episode, we're going to be doing an example of a real life marketing funnel, and we're going to be working through a case study of a dietitian that we've helped support and fixing her marketing funnel. We can't wait to see you next Tuesday. And remember to subscribe to our free newsletter, The Game Plan.